marry her. She's lying to you." The voice of 12-year-old Zoe Gibson cut through the air like lightning, echoing through the grand chapel filled with stunned guests. Standing in the center aisle, tears glimmering in her eyes, she clutched a tablet to her chest as if it held the world's deepest secret. And it did. The room fell into absolute silence. Only the soft clicks of camera shutters broke the stillness. At the altar stood Alexander Gibson, a 45-year-old tech visionary and one of Silicon Valley's few black billionaires, frozen in disbelief. Beside him, his bride-to-be, Dr. Christine Montgomery, a 38-year-old heart surgeon, went pale as if she'd seen a ghost. "Zoe, what are you doing?" Alexander asked finally, his voice shaking. "She's using you, Dad," Zoe said firmly. "Everything she's told you is a lie, and I can prove it." Christine gave a shaky laugh and adjusted her veil. "Honey, she's just confused. It's normal for children to struggle when a parent remarries. Let's talk about this after the ceremony." But Zoe didn't stop. She took a bold step toward the altar, ignoring the whispers and disapproving looks from the guests. Her sky blue dress, a bridesmaid's dress Christine had picked out, stood in sharp contrast to the white gowns of the other women. "This can't wait," Zoe said, her voice steady now. "Last night, after you left for the rehearsal dinner, I heard Christine talking in the garden with a man." Christine's expression darkened. "Alexander, that's ridiculous. I was talking to my sister." "It was a man named Kevin," Zoe countered, connecting her tablet to the chapel's speaker system with calm precision. "And they weren't talking about wedding plans." Christine lunged forward. "This is a complete invasion of privacy. Alexander, please control your daughter." But it was too late. Christine's own voice filled the chapel. "Kevin, relax. In 2 months, he'll sign the new company papers, transferring part of the shares to me. After that, Gibson Technologies will practically be ours." Gas filled the room. Alexander's face turned ashen. "Christine, what is she talking about? Who's Kevin?" Christine's polite mask vanished. She grabbed the priest's microphone. "Security, remove this girl immediately. This is an edited recording meant to sabotage me." 2 security guards started forward, but Zoe stood her ground. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling but resolute, "remember when you thought it was strange that your private projects started leaking to competitors after you began dating her? That wasn't a coincidence. She's been going through your files. I saw her. More than once." Memories flashed through Alexander's mind. Christine sneaking into his office at night, her sudden curiosity about his research, the probing questions she'd asked about his deals. Christine's tone grew sharp and defensive. "Alexander, she's making up stories because she can't accept our happiness. Are you really going to let a child ruin our wedding?" But something in her voice triggered another memory. Their accidental first meeting at a cafe, when she spilled coffee on his documents and insisted on paying for the cleaning. Back then it seemed charming. Now it seemed planned. "Zoe," he said slowly, "how did you get this recording?" "After I saw her enter your office while you were away," Zoe explained, "I set up a mini camera in the garden, the same one you gave me for my science project." Christine suddenly turned toward the side exit, her heels clicking furiously against the marble floor. "This is insane. I'm not staying here to be humiliated by a child." But Zoe wasn't finished. She swiped across her tablet screen. "Her name isn't Christine Montgomery," she said. "It's Christine Monteague. She changed it 3 years ago. And Kevin. Kevin is her husband." The words landed like thunder. Christine froze mid-step. The guests erupted in shocked murmurs. Alexander stared at her, the woman he'd almost married, and then pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "I'm calling the police," he said quietly. And for the first time that day, Christine had no words at all. Christine turned slowly, her eyes now sharp and calculating. Gone was the warm, loving woman she had pretended to be just minutes earlier. Amid the gasps and confusion spreading through the chapel, she suddenly smiled. A small, chilling smile that made Zoe's stomach twist. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, little girl," she whispered, just loud enough for Zoe to hear. "This isn't over." As her father spoke frantically to the police, Zoe stood firm, clutching her tablet like a shield. She had spent months preparing for this moment, watching, recording, connecting the dots that everyone else refused to see. It had all started 3 months earlier. At a glittering charity gala, 12-year-old Zoe had watched her father laugh, really laugh, for the first time since her mother's death. Across the ballroom, Christine Montgomery sparkled under the chandeliers, dazzling guests with charm and intelligence. "Isn't she incredible?" Alexander said, sitting beside his daughter on the mansion's staircase. Zoe forced a polite smile. "Yeah, Dad, she's amazing." But inside, something felt wrong. There was something almost too perfect about Christine, especially the way she mingled effortlessly with powerful investors and tech executives. The next morning, as Maya Williams, the family's longtime housekeeper, prepared breakfast, Zoe finally voiced her unease. "Mrs. Maya," she said quietly, "don't you think it's strange that Dad met Christine exactly a week after he announced his new AI project?" Instead of dismissing her like everyone else, the 60-year-old woman looked thoughtful. She gently placed her hand over Zoe's. "Go on," she said. That moment marked the beginning of an unexpected alliance. Because Maya wasn't just a housekeeper. Before joining the Gibson household, she had worked as a systems analyst for a confidential government department, one that Zoe suspected dealt with far more than paperwork. "We'll need proof," Maya said calmly. "Your father believes in data, not guesses." The opportunity came days later. During an urgent phone call, Christine left her tablet unattended in the kitchen. With Maya's quiet guidance, Zoe installed a monitoring app. Nothing invasive, just a simple program to log activity for family safety. The data that followed told a chilling story. Searches about intellectual property transfers, marriage contracts between executives, and laws on asset division after divorce. From that day forward, Zoe became quietly vigilant. On her birthday, while everyone sang "Happy Birthday," Christine leaned in close, smiling sweetly for the cameras. "It won't be easy for you when I'm your stepmother," she whispered. "Rebellious girls usually end up in boarding schools far away." When Zoe told her father, he sighed. "Honey, she's just trying to connect with you. You have to give her a chance." But things at home began to shift, subtly, then unmistakably. Christine redecorated the house, removed photos of Zoe's late mother, and slowly pushed Maya out of family gatherings. She even began isolating Alexander from his longtime friends, especially those who questioned their whirlwind romance. Then came the night of the storm. Lightning flashed through the mansion as Zoe noticed a faint light under the door of her father's office. The security system had temporarily gone offline, giving her a rare chance to look inside. Through the small gap, she saw Christine with an unfamiliar man. Both were examining confidential documents spread across the desk. "Stop worrying, Kevin," Christine said, her voice calm and confident as Zoe discreetly recorded with her phone. "After the wedding, Alexander will sign over the intellectual property as a gift to our joint company. He trusts me completely." "And the girl?" the man asked. "She won't stop watching you," Kevin added. Christine laughed coldly. "A troubled preteen versus a respected surgeon? Who do you think he'll believe?" Zoe's hands trembled, but she didn't stop filming. That recording would become the foundation of everything that followed. With Maya's help, Zoe turned her bedroom into a miniature investigation lab. Using her coding skills, she uncovered that Christine Montgomery had changed her name 3 years earlier, from Christine Montague. Kevin, it turned out, wasn't her colleague. He was her husband. Digging deeper, they discovered both were connected to previous cases of corporate data theft involving high-profile tech companies. "We need to move strategically," Maya advised. "Your father won't believe any of this without irrefutable evidence." Over the next few weeks, Zoe gathered digital records, emails, and old documents, while Maya quietly reached out to former contacts, confirming a pattern of calculated relationships with wealthy men, all ending with sudden financial disappearances. Then came the final discovery. Zoe intercepted emails between Christine and legal consultants discussing how to reassign ownership of Alexander's AI systems through marital contracts. It was undeniable proof. On the night before the wedding, Zoe was sitting at her desk when Christine appeared in the doorway, unannounced. "I hope you've prepared your bridesmaid speech," she said smoothly, scanning the room with cold precision. It would be such a shame to disappoint your father on his big day. Zoe didn't answer. Her tablet was already charged, her evidence organized, and her courage ready. Tomorrow everything would be revealed. Christine's voice trembled between fury and arrogance as she held up a small drive. "This," she hissed, "contains every design I ever took from Gibson Technologies. But you think I'm the only one? There are people far more powerful than you, Alexander, and they're waiting for you to fall." Alexander took a step forward, fury and disbelief written across his face. Before he could respond, a voice came from the back of the chapel. "Actually, Miss Montague," said a calm baritone, "your fall starts now." The guest turned. Detective Marcus James, head of the Cyber Crimes Unit, stepped forward with two officers. Maya exhaled quietly in relief. She had reached out to the detective days earlier, anticipating this exact moment. "Kristen Montague," Detective James announced as he approached, handcuffs glinting in the chapel lights. "You are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, intellectual property theft, and several other charges that we'll go over in detail at the station." The drive Christine had flaunted as her leverage was taken as evidence. As she was led away, shouting accusations and half-formed threats, Alexander turned to his daughter, pulling her into a tight embrace. "How did you know?" he whispered, his voice breaking under the weight of relief and shame. Zoe leaned into him. "The little things," she said softly. "The way she always changed the topic when you talked about work. How she checked your office when no one was around. But mostly," her voice dropped, "the way she called you the target when she thought I wasn't listening." Around them, the stunned guests began to murmur, still trying to process the scene. What was supposed to be the wedding of the year had just turned into the scandal of the decade. Several tech executives quietly made calls to their security departments, suddenly wondering what information they might have shared with the charming Dr. Montgomery at past events. Maya approached with her usual calm dignity. "Zoe," she said quietly, "did you remember the final safeguard?" A knowing smile appeared on Zoe's face. She opened her tablet and tapped the screen. Alexander immediately recognized the interface. "Is that?" he murmured. "The Falcon Protocol," Zoe confirmed. "I activated it the moment she mentioned the drive. All data she stole has just self-deleted, and every Gibson server is now locked behind new adaptive firewalls." Alexander stared at her, his daughter, the quiet girl he'd thought needed protection, realizing she had just saved his entire life's work. In the middle of the ruined wedding hall, among toppled flowers and shattered dreams, stood the smallest victor imaginable, a 12-year-old girl who refused to be silenced, who refused to be underestimated. As the police car doors closed on Christine, she turned one last time, her eyes finding Zoe's. There was no warmth left in them, only a cold, calculating promise. "This isn't over," that look seemed to say. Zoe felt a chill. Somewhere deep down, she knew it wasn't. 6 months later, the Gibson mansion, once decorated for a wedding, was now transformed into the launch venue for Gibson Technologies' newest innovation, Project Vigilante. Under the bright stage lights, Alexander Gibson stepped to the podium, his eyes gleaming with pride and purpose. "You all know the story," he began. 6 months ago, my family and company faced a complex fraud attempt that nearly cost us everything. Our assets, our inventions, and possibly even our lives." A murmur spread through the audience. The Montague Gibson case had dominated headlines for months, exposing a corporate espionage network that stretched across multiple tech industries. "Our survival," Alexander continued, "didn't come from elite cybersecurity experts or million-dollar systems." He paused, eyes locking onto the front row. There sat Zoe, her legs swinging just above the floor, with Maya beside her. "It came from a 12-year-old girl," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "who refused to be ignored." The cameras immediately turned toward Zoe. She smiled shyly as Maya gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. "My daughter taught me something every leader should remember," Alexander continued. "No algorithm is stronger than human intuition." He gestured to the large display behind him, where Project Vigilante's system came to life, showing real-time analytics, behavioral cues, and predictive modeling designed to detect deceit before it struck. "This technology," he said proudly, combines AI precision with the human ability to notice what data alone can't. And while the CEO might be a little too young to take over just yet, he added with a grin, Zoe Gibson is officially recognized as co-creator, with shares in a trust she'll access when she turns 18. The audience erupted in applause. In a smaller screen beside the stage, a live news feed showed the courtroom. The trial of Kristen and Kevin Montague was concluding. The judge's voice was steady. 15 years in federal prison for fraud, theft, conspiracy, and attempted harm. Investigators had found the so-called Plan B, hidden on a laptop discovered in Kevin's possession. As the verdict was read, Zoe sat quietly beside Maya, her eyes fixed on the stage. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe. But deep inside, a quiet thought lingered. Christine's final glare, that silent promise. Somewhere Zoe knew, this wasn't the end. What happened could have destroyed everything, Alexander said, his voice carrying through the auditorium. But instead, it became the greatest opportunity for growth this company has ever seen. The audience applauded. Since the scandal, Gibson Technologies' stock had tripled. Their new security division had become an industry leader, with 3 major corporations already under contract. After the presentation, an older man approached Zoe and Maya. His tailored suit and calm demeanor gave him an air of quiet authority. "Miss Gibson," he said, offering a business card, "I'm the director of the Young Talent Program at the National Security Division. We'd like to talk about your future, when you're ready." Zoe accepted the card politely. "Thank you, sir, but I still have a lot of school ahead of me." Maya stepped in gently. "And she deserves to be a kid a little longer," she said with a smile. The man nodded respectfully before walking away. Later that night, with the mansion quiet and the stars bright above the garden, Alexander found Zoe sitting on the same bench where everything had begun. "A penny for your thoughts?" he asked, sitting beside her. Zoe smiled faintly. "I was thinking about Mom. I think she would have liked the event today." "She would have been proud," Alexander said softly. "Just like I am." Zoe looked up at the stars. "You know what I've learned these past 6 months?" "What's that?" "That being underestimated can sometimes be your biggest advantage. Christine spent so much time seeing me as just a kid. She never realized I was actually paying attention." Alexander chuckled, eyes glinting with pride. "That sounds exactly like something your mother would have said. She used to call it her secret weapon in the tech world." Just then, Zoe's tablet chimed. A new alert flashed across the screen. She frowned. Someone's trying to access the company servers. From a prison computer, apparently. Alexander stood immediately. "I'll call security." "No need," Zoe said calmly, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "I just activated Falcon Protocol 2.0. Whoever tried to hack us just exposed all their outside contacts." On the screen, a list of names appeared, known associates of the Montigues who had evaded capture. Zoe smirked. "Looks like Christine still hasn't learned her most important lesson." "And what lesson is that?" Alexander asked. "Never underestimate a girl with a tablet and a sense of justice." They both laughed quietly. Above them, the stars shimmered, mirrored by the scrolling list of names, each one lighting up like a digital constellation. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about technology or justice or even revenge. It was about transformation, how the attempt to destroy something can lead to the creation of something far greater. Zoe hadn't just protected her father. She'd discovered her own strength, the courage to stand up, to speak the truth, and to turn betrayal into triumph. If this story of courage, intelligence, and transformation inspired you, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who believes in doing what's right, no matter how small they might seem. After all, sometimes the biggest victories begin when one brave voice says, "No, this is wrong, and I'm going to stop it."